said there's another spirituality present that we want to avoid as well. We read that meanwhile the older son was in the field. And when he came to the house, he heard music and dancing. So he called one of the servants and he asked him, "What's going on?" "Your brother has come," he replied, "and your father has killed the fattened calf because he has him back safe and sound." And the older brother became angry and he refused to go in. So his father went out and pleaded with him. But the son answered his father, "Look, all these years I've been slaving for you and never disobeyed your orders. Yet you never gave me even a young goat so I could celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours has squandered your property with prostitutes comes home, you kill the fatted calf for him." "My son," the father said, "you're always with me, and everything I have is yours." But we had to celebrate and be glad because this brother of yours was dead and is alive again. He was lost, but now he's found. And this older brother, we need to look at. Bump me one more head. Boy, there's a picture of that father welcoming back his son. We see gratitude. We see compassion. We see grace in action. But if you look over their shoulders, we see a son wearing that downward frown of disapproval. And he represents that other form of spirituality that likewise is dangerous, that likewise will make us miss out on the riches of the Father. And I want us to take a moment to examine that too, what I call older brother spirituality, because that older brother spirituality, like the younger prodigal son spirituality, is brash and immature. Why? Because it's rather self-made and rather self-congratulatory. That older brother spirituality thinks that it's earned. He's earned the merit of the Father. I've been such a good guy. I've been so compliant. I've been so goody-goody. I've done everything I've said, everything you've told me to do. Reward me for it. As a matter of fact, it thinks the Father owes him rewards and favors. It's not what the Father's provided, it's what the Son has done. And as a result of that, it has a tendency to be performance-based. And we need to be careful about all of this. We really do. Why? Because all this spirituality is an overcorrection of the prodigal son spirituality. It's an overcorrection. I'd love to say that we should go right back to the middle, but no, it's this overcorrection where it goes beyond what's right and proper and becomes wrong because of its overcorrection. Performance-based people tend to shine a spotlight on those who are flawed or upon the flaws of others. Why? So that people will look at their flaws and not notice their own. And that's when Christianity can become quite ugly. And we certainly don't want that. It prides itself on obedience. It says, look at me. Look at what I do. It resents grace. It resents love. It resents forgiveness. And it resents restoration being shared with other people. And it's kind of selfish. It says, God, give it all to me, but don't give it to anybody else. Wrong. It thinks in terms of legalism. I'm sorry that word got left off, but it tends to say, look how I follow the rules. Look how I follow the laws. And such older brother spirituality leaves you hungry as well. We read about the prodigal son being hungry in a pig pen. There's some hunger going on in the belly of this older son too. It leaves you proud, and that's the deadliest of the 7 deadly sins. And it leaves you depleted. It leaves you washed out with no longer energy. Why? Because you're spending all your time and all your energy doing something that God gives so freely. It leaves you resenting the shared grace and restoration that each and every one of us need. So how do we apply this? How do we learn from this? There are 2 forms of spirituality. A younger brother spirituality that's very irresponsible, and an older brother spirituality that's very, very toxic. 2 toxic types of spirituality. And I you to know that being the pastor of a church, I'm usually associated with that older brother spirituality. I wear the robes of the institution and the stoles of the institution. I'm his voice of morality. And some of you, when I was talking about Amendment 2, were squirming in your seats. You think I didn't see that? And you know what? Probably thought I sounded a lot like the older brother when I talked that way. And all that, even something as common as that, makes me want to realize, folks, we got to be careful how we present ourselves. Just think if the younger brother had come back from the far country and ran into the older brother before he ran into his father. What would have happened? He'd have turned around and said, going back to the pigs. I'm glad he ran into the father first. We might have run into older brothers on our way back from the far country too. We might have had some older brother spirituality in ourselves that served as stumbling blocks to people who are coming back from the far country. I met them when I came back from the far country. People who were zealous to remind me of the shame that I had given Christianity. The ones I listened to were like a completely different class of believers. They said, welcome back. You've been missed. Come on back in. Jesus loves you and loves you still. Let's keep walking together. Walk with me while I walk with him. Those are the ones that we listen to. In taking this in for a land, there have been two types of spirituality. There's that younger brother prodigal spirituality. There's that older brother spirituality. What's the best spirituality to have? And the way they've been presented, I've got to say, neither one. The best one to have was the spirituality of those servants. Those servants. That's the spirituality I want you to have. That's the spirituality I think Jesus wants us to have. I mean, we can think of that. If I could rewrite it all, if I was brash and mature, I'd say, hey, Matthew, Luke, call it the parable of the starving sons. Here's a test. Who said what? Okay? He began to be in need. That's about which one? Which character? First son. Yeah. He's in need. That need manifests itself in hunger, right? He longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating. That's about the younger son, right? How many of my father's hired servants have food to spare, and here I am starving to death? That was the younger son. Okay. What about this one? Look, all these years I've been slaving for you and never disobeyed your orders, yet you never gave me even a young goat so that I could celebrate or eat with my friends. Who said that? There's a lot of hungry people there, aren't there? There's a lot of reference to being hungry. A lot of reference to being just absolutely drained of it. My son, everything I have is yours. Who said that? The Father. The Father did. He's the source of plenty. And his younger son's starving. And his older son lives right in the middle of the smorgasbord, and he's starving too. Wow! The ones who have plenty to eat are the servants. Let's talk about that servant spirituality. There's so much we can learn from them. Yeah, that servant spirituality that I want you to have. The servants know where the best robe is. When Dad says, quick, go get it, they know right where it is. What does that tell you? They're the ones who have the joy of taking this threadbare, filthy soul and just saying, here, take this. Man, I loved it when it was given to me. It gives me great joy to see it given to you. What else? The servants know where the ring is. And they get to put it on the finger of the one who needs to have dignity bestowed. They don't need to be spat upon. They don't need to be shamed. They don't need to be discouraged. And they certainly don't need to be sent away. They need to have that that original vision for God's creation to be restored to them. It's given in the form of a ring. The servants know where the sandals are and gladly put them on the feet that were tired and weary, returning from that far country. The servants know where the fatted calf is, and they have the great delight in serving it and preparing it. They knew how good it tasted to them when they came back. They know how much the prodigal is going to enjoy it too. The servants know the Father's business, and they join in the music, and they join in the merrymaking that notes return from death to life. They don't sit there and say, well, this death-life change should be ended now that it's been bestowed upon me. Forget everybody else. They're going, no, I want you to receive that life as well. Let me show you what my daddy can do for you. Let me show you what that trip back to his house, back to his property can do for you. He'll run to you too. He'll throw his embrace around you too. They know it because they've been there too. They've seen it too. They haven't learned to look down the nose. They've learned to open the heart. They've learned to introduce the source of the compassion. That's the kind of Jesus we have. That's the kind of Jesus we worship. So which kind of spirit, and this is closing here. Ben, please get up here. We're going to close in just a second. Which kind of spirituality do you want to live in?
Serve it.
What kind of spirituality do you have? Or have you had? Because we're all honest. We've had that prodigal spirituality before. Let's not kid ourselves. Let's be honest. We've had that big brother spirituality kind of thing too. You said good for me. And shame on you. But can we learn from that and move on? And adopt the spirituality that Jesus would have us have, that his spirit, that his servants had? Can we live on the richest fare? Seeing the others come. I open up the altar this morning for anyone who wants to make a break with whatever spirituality they've been living in. And adapting. And it doesn't happen right away. It's a walk. It's a process. Maybe you're ready to start that spirituality that says, Jesus, I'm here to live amongst your servants. I want to serve like they serve. I want to be in your presence amongst your riches like they are. Won't you come? Won't you make the trip? Won't you make the walk? The altar's open for you. Our closing song, the altar's open as we sing it. One thing remains.